Let's start with the question, what is community language learning? Community language learning is a language teaching method in which students work together to develop what aspects of a language they would like to learn. It encourages interaction as a vehicle of learning, in which it emphasizes the sense of community in the learning group. So community language learning is based on the counseling approach in which the teacher is the counselor and the student is the client. The proponent of community language learning is Charles Arthur Curran. In community language learning, the learner's role is not seen individually but collaboratively, in which learners' interaction within the premise of their group serves as a vehicle of learning. So the other learner's role is the learners as the listener, because in community language learning, learners are expected to listen attentively. The learner's task is to apprehend the sound system of the language, assign fundamental meanings to individual lexical units, and construct a basic grammar. So we can say that the learner's tasks in community language learning have resemblance in the natural approach to language learning. So, learners are not expected to speak until he has achieved some basic level of comprehension. As a teacher, it is your responsibility to provide your students a safe environment in which their learning could grow and prosper. It is also your responsibility to correct them when they commit a mistake. But this requires you to become cultural sensitive, since not everyone in the class have the same culture as you. The teacher as counselor functions primarily to respond calmly and non-judgmentally in a supportive manner and help the client to try to understand his or her problem better by applying order and analysis to them. The specific teacher.
So hello everyone, I am Liza Godinez. I will introduce to you the objectives and the types of learning and teaching activities of the community language learning. The main objective of community language learning is to attain near native-like mastery of the target language. So we will go to the types of learning and teaching activities. First, we have translation. Translation is the process of translating a specific language to a different language. Next, we have group work. Group work is working in a group. Next, we have recording. Recording or it is storing sounds or data. Recording is also an investigation. Next, we have analysis. Analysis is a careful study to learn. Next, we have reflection and observation. So reflection and observation is a comment or remark on something. Next, we have listening. Listening is paying attention. So we have also transcription. Transcription is like we did in our APA. We remember it, right? Next, we have free conversation. Free conversation is also a free talk. So that's all for my topic. I hope you learned something on it. Thank you and God bless us all.
So in this area, we're gonna talk about the rule of institutional material and procedure of community language learning. So in community language learning, learners become members of a community, their fellow learners, and the teacher, and learn through interacting with members of the community. Learning is not viewed as an individual accomplishment, but as something that is achieved collaboratively. Learners are expected to listen attentively to the neighbor, to freely provide meanings they wish to express, to repeat target utterances without hesitation, to support fellow members of the community to report deep inner feelings and frustrations, as well as joy and pleasure, and to become counselors to other learners. So, learner rules arcade to 5 stages of language learning outlined earlier. So the view of the learner is an organic one, with each new rule growing developmentally out of the one preceding. These rule changes are not easily automatically achieved. They are in fact seen as counts of affective crisis. So in stage 1, the learner is like an infant. It completely dependent to the knower of linguistic content, just like a new self of the learner is generated or born in the target language. So the learner repeats utterances made by the teacher in the target language and overhears the interchanges between other learners and knowers. So in stage 2, the child achieves a measure of independence from the parent. So learners begin to establish their own self-affirmation and independence by using simple expressions and phrases they have previously heard. In stage 3, the separate existence stage. So learners begin to understand others directly in the target language. Learners will resent uninvited assistance provided by the knower or the parent at this stage. In the stage 4 may be considered a kind of adolescence. The learner functions independently, although his or her knowledge of the foreign language is still rudimentary. The rule of psychological understanding shifts from knower to learner. So the learner must learn how to elicit from the knower the advanced level of linguistic knowledge the knower possesses. Lastly, the stage 5, called the independent stage. Learners refine their understanding of register as well as grammatically correct language use. They may become counselors to less advanced students while profiting from contact with their original knower. If we talk about the teacher rules, deepest level is the teacher's function derives from the function of the counselor in Rogerian physiological counseling. A counselor's client are people with problems who in typical counseling session will often use emotional language to communicate their difficulties to the counselor. The counselor's role is to respond calmly and non-judgmentally in a supportive manner and help the client try to understand his or her problems better by applying order to and analysis to them. The counselor is not responsible of paraphrasing the client's problem element for element, but rather for capturing the essence of client's concern, such as client might say, "Yes, that's exactly what I mean." Or one of the function of counseling response is relate the effect of to cognition. Understanding language of feeling, the counselor replies in the language of cognition. It was the model of the teacher as a counselor that attempt bring language learning. So that is about the rule of institutional material of community language learning. So let's proceed to the procedure of community language learning. Since each community language learning course is in sense of unique experience, the description of typical CLL procedures in class period is so very problematic. So it was introduced by Dieter Stronink presents a protocol of what's first day CLL class coverage, which is outlined here. First is informal greetings and self-introductions were made. Second, the teacher made a statement of the goals and guidelines of the course. Third is a conversation session in foreign language took place. So a circle was formed so that everyone has a visual contact with each other and all were in easy reach of a tape recorder or microphone. So one of the students initiated a conversation with another student by giving a message in the L1, which is the English. So the instructor standing behind the student whispered a close equivalent of message using their L2. So the student then repeated the L2 message to its addressee and into the tape recorder microphone as well. Each student had a chance to compose a record, a few messages. The tape recorder was rewound and replayed at intervals. So each student repeated the meaning in English what he or she had said in the L2 and helped to refresh the memory of others. So number 4, the fourth one is the students then participated in a reflection period in which they were asked to express their feelings about the previous experience with total frankness. Fifth is from the material just recorded, the instructor closed sentences to write on the board that highlighted elements of grammar, spelling, and peculiarities of capitalization in the L2. So then the students were encouraged to ask questions about any of the above. Seventh is were encouraged to copy sentences from the board with notes on meaning and usage. So this became their textbook for home study. So this inventory of activities encompasses the major suggestions for classroom practices appearing in the most recent literature on CLL, other procedures. However, they emerge fortuitously on the basis of learner-knower interaction in the classroom context. So in conclusion, community language learning is the most responsive of the methods we have reviewed in terms of its sensitivity to learned communicative intent. So it should not be noted, however, that this communicative intent is constrained by the number and knowledge of fellow learners. A learner's desire is to understand or express technical terms used in aeronautical engineering is unlikely to receive adequate response in the CLL class. So community language learning places unusual demands on language teachers. They must be highly proficient and sensitive to nuance in both L1 and L2. They must be familiar with and sympathetic to the role of counselor psychological counseling. Of course, they must resist the pressure to teach in the traditional senses. As one community language learner, teacher notes, I had to relax completely and to exclude my own will to produce something myself. So I had to exclude any function of forming or formulating something within me, not trying to do something, according to Quran 1976. So that's all. Thank you for listening and have a good day, everyone.